Good morning and welcome to Friday's Trending. Just me today. As per usual, the show is brought to you and sponsored by Iconic Coffee. Head over to shop.iconic.com and use the code TRENDING for 10% off. What a 24 hours it's been. Utter madness, isn't it? The fallout, the great divide. In my opinion, this is a lot of over the top WWE type theatre. But let's dive into it because we have to, don't we? Elon Musk says Donald Trump appears in Epstein files as row explodes. I mean, there's so much more going on in the background with this, but imagine dropping Donald Trump's name in with Epstein. We all know they're connected. They have been connected for decades before he died, and apparently chucked him out of Mar-a-Lago and all of this stuff, this mythology around it. But Elon Musk, you know, he's had his fair share of like crossing paths with the likes of Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein liked to go to St. Bart's Island. Elon Musk himself likes to have children and conceive children on St. Bart's Island, which isn't that far from Epstein's Island itself. They do hang around in very similar circles. So Musk isn't as clear and clean in this as he put across. So the falling out between former close allies explodes as Trump says Musk has gone crazy. A billionaire hits back accusing US president of ingratitude. Well, Elon Musk did fund him to the tune, I think it was 250 million. But so did Peter Thiel way back. They're all connected through this technocratic lot. So in my opinion, that's my personal opinion, this is all a lot of theatre. But you have Donald Trump, President of the United States, funded by Elon Musk, previously funded by Peter Thiel, who started PayPal with Elon Musk. And Thiel also funds SpaceX to a certain degree, has given money to Elon's SpaceX. So they're all connected. And then obviously Peter Thiel co-founded Palantir, and Donald Trump's just taken on Palantir to basically spy on all of the US citizens. It's absurd to think that these guys aren't all in it together and connected. They're all egotistical, eccentric narcissists, quite frankly, and perhaps the fallout is real, but I'm hedging my bets to say that this is quite a bit of theatre for now. Elon Musk said in a tweet on his X, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they're not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump." Elon Musk is seen in Qatar with Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, a Chabadnik, this messianic sect that we have covered often in the last few months. I mean, there's much more going on here than this, and I think it's a lot of top-level theatre, but it is kind of fun to watch, then pretend maybe people tried to or started to figure it all out, put all these connections together as we've done, because they're quite blatantly obvious in terms of who's running who, and Palantir is part of the CIA. It's a cutout for the CIA. Everybody knows that. So taking on that, Donald Trump, maybe it just got too obvious and too close, so they have to press and play the divide role and press the divide button. So there's two sides. It's a civil war type situation where both sides are controlled by the same hidden hand. It's quite obvious there. So we'll see how that plays out, but get your popcorn out. It's fun to watch. Russian ambassador partly blames UK for Ukrainian drone attack. Well, it has a point. It does have a point, since the US and the UK have been funding the arms to the Ukraine. So he's right, isn't he? Andrea Kelling pointed the finger at the UK when he said Ukraine must have had assistance in the weekend's drone attacks. So what he's implying even this ambassador, is that the UK helped to orchestrate the attacks, not only supplied the arms. Russia's UK ambassador has told Sky News that Ukraine's recent attacks risk escalating the conflict to World War III, as he partly blamed the UK. Well, that is the point. Again, I believe, and many of us believe it through this research, that at the top level, the apex level, both sides of a conflict are funded and controlled by the same small elite. And that word is not the word that we really want to use, because they're demented. Andre Kelling warned that the UK's actions are bringing the conflict to a different level of escalation. In an interview with Sky News, Yalda Hakim has said Kiev should not try to engulf World War III. That's where it's all prodding, isn't it? You know that NATO basically went in and prodded Putin and Russia for a long time to get this reaction. Now, was that orchestrated both sides? And they both know that this is actually just part of the agenda to roll out into the Third World War. We hope not. We hope people don't fall for this, and none of these wars can be fought if people don't go along, fight them, quite frankly. But this is escalated, and you have all this drama over there in the US with Musk and Trump. And then over here, you still have the Ukraine conflict with Russia going on. So it's very interesting times, isn't it? So we'll read a little bit more. More than 100 Ukrainian drones were deployed inside Russia over the weekend, destroying more than 40 warplanes in attack, Volodymyr Zelensky said, will undoubtedly be in history books. Mr. Kelly pointed the finger at the UK when he said Ukraine must have had an assistance in the attacks. This kind of attack involves, of course, provision of very high technology. Well, we've funded it, so, they more than likely got it. So-called, they have got it because they've just shown that they've got it. So-called geospace data, which can only be done by those who have had it in possession. And this is London and Washington, he said. So, and he's right, obviously. Not only provide the funding for it, provide the tech, but who's really creating a lot of the tech? It seems to come out of China and Israel at the moment. So these chess pieces are being moved around all over the place. But Jeffrey Epstein still keeps popping up, doesn't he? Now we've just got the connection back to Trump and Musk having a little WWE heel turn, baby face turn, with them switching sides. But what's come out in the last couple of days, and we haven't really covered this yet, is Jeffrey Epstein's hidden wealth revealed. Investment in Peter Thiel's firm now nets millions for his estate. Peter Thiel of the CIA cutout Palantir was involved in business with Jeffrey Epstein. We know they met, but he denied this until now. So that's why possibly it's time to have Elon Musk and Donald Trump part ways, because it's becoming far too obvious. A confidential report reveals that convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein invested $40 million in Peter Thiel's Valar Ventures, which has now grown to $170 million, which is peanuts to them, really. But, it's the connection that's important. This investment is the estate's largest asset, but returns are likely to benefit Epstein's victims who previously settled. So there is the connection there. And then you have the CIA Palantir connection. We were looking at something this week on my classified show called Google's Ledger, which is basically your database of your whole life, which they can store now on your DNA, which was technology brought to the fore by George Church of Colossal Biosciences, who was funded by Jeffrey Epstein too. So who's to say that those Epstein files that everybody's looking for aren't stored on Epstein's DNA itself? It's possible. The technology is available. The funding connects all of these players, George Church, Jeffrey Epstein, Palantir to sort through the data, Donald Trump obviously bringing Palantir on, Elon Musk starting companies and being funded by Peter Thiel. They all connect. Maybe it was just getting far too obvious for everyone. So it's time to try and pretend they don't all get on. Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender who died by suicide nearly 6 years ago. That's because Kash Patel says it's suicide. No one else really thinks it's suicide. Invested $40 million in two funds managed by Valar Ventures, a New York-based firm. It's always New York, isn't it? These bad guys love it there as well. Co-founded by Silicon Valley mogul Peter Thiel. According to a confidential estate financial report obtained by the New York Times, these investments made during 2015 and 2016, so I believe he had already been convicted at this point. I think it was 2008, his first conviction, have now grown to an estimated $170 million, making them the largest remaining asset in Epstein's estate. The financial link between Epstein and Thiel's firm had remained undisclosed until now. Valar Ventures focuses on tech-based financial service setups. It's just basically money laundering. They can basically figure out who's sending money where I mean, even HSBC were involved with this way back with this money laundering situation. I mean, come on. And the firm's representative described Epstein in 2014 as a well-known advisor to world leaders, top universities and philanthropic organizations, and a child trafficking child abuser. I missed that bit out. It's absurd, isn't it? Come on. They're all connected. And everybody's seeing it for what it is now. But what people aren't tending to put together right now on the part, definitely not in the mainstream, and most of the alternative at the moment are not putting together how these technologies can be used together. The Palantir would sort through the data and construct it in a way that could be weaponized. You would have something like Google's selfish ledger, which was a concept, but to think that Google doesn't use that technology, I think you would be quite naive. At least the concept, that would collate everything that you've ever done in your life, every email sent, every text message sent, every website you've ever gone on, everything you've said in your phone's recorded. That would be collated. And from those two, that could be stored on your DNA to pass down generation from generation, literally through your DNA. So you could end up paying for the sins of your great-great-great-grandfather and categorized in a certain way. That would just be eugenics, techno-eugenics, or transhumanism, as it was called eventually by Julian Huxley. They would be able to say that this is an undesirable bloodline. Now, people aren't putting the technologies together, but the main players are definitely connected. And George Church created this technology. He's also the one behind Colossal Biosciences that re-engineered, de-extinct the direwolf recently. And they were called, that direwolf was called, well, there's two, Romulus and Remus, which were the founders of Rome, the two twins that were raised by a she-wolf. And they went in with, to Elon Musk's story. Elon Musk basically just had his 13th child conceived on St. Bart's, which isn't that far away from Jeffrey Epstein's island. And that child was called Romulus too. So all the signals are there that there's something very deep and dark going on here. And maybe they're starting to realize that people are figuring this out and they need to pretend to hate each other. That's what my take on it would be. But here's another one, technocrat. This is all coming together quite quickly. Jeff Bezos, Washington Post, plans to add random opinion writers edited by AI. So what they're doing here in this concept is psychologically putting the cart before the horse. So we had a story yesterday, which was funny to a certain degree, that 700 Indian people were found to be the bots behind an AI company. They didn't have any AI. There were 700 Indians in a warehouse somewhere pretending to be chatbots, pretending to be human. So what they're doing is you can see the psychology here of trying to mix the human and the machine in together. But eventually it looks like they're trying to, well, I would say they are trying to push the human to the background and rely on AI as its God. You go to that. That's the daddy machine. So given how artificial intelligence pitfalls dominate the daily news cycle, you'd think that the media industry would take a cautionary approach to AI. Yeah, think again. In an effort to boost readership, the Washington Post plans to expand its opinion sections to include newbie writers who will be guided by artificial intelligence. Guided by. So you will be going to artificial intelligence to be fact-checked, basically. These newbie writers are coming from like places like Substack that don't have any official training in writing. So they're going to AI and saying, am what I say, is what I am saying, even hard to say for me, right? Is it what it is? And so again, the psychology is that AI is the master there. And it's absurd because, as we've just seen, sometimes they're just 700 Indians in a shed. Since April, the Post has worked on scaling an initiative to bring new voices to the paper. Multiple people confirmed with the New York Times that the program, dubbed Ripple, involves publishing established Substack writers and non-professionals. On the surface, it sounds similar to previous contributor models utilized, not necessarily successfully, it says, by the Huffington Post and Forbes. The biggest difference is that the Post, the Washington Post, owned by Bezos, won't guide new writers with a human. That's too basic. Instead, the outlet will use Ember, an AI coach, to oversee the process. So the AI is the master. You can see what's happening here. This is transhumanism. First, the transhumanist agenda needs to be created in the mind of the human in terms of people accepting it. It's a psychological process first. And all goes back to ancient alchemy and how they used to do things. So they understand that it has to happen in the mind. The psychology has to accept it before the people of the world will accept it. So that's what this is about. This is all about the humans being subjugated to technology, and AI is your master. So all of these people are connected. You'll have things like Google pretending they're not connected in with Meta, and all of these guys not connected together, but of course they are. So let's give that as a given. Although they pretend to hate each other, you'll find that they're funded by each other and they rely on each other. It's like a blockchain. That's the way they've done it. They're relying on each other for funding. So if one of the companies struggles, the other one will be affected because they're all financially connected like a blockchain. That's the point. It's the Tower of Babel, Tower of Cards. And they're building an inverted upside down Tower of Babel because what's happening is all this data is getting stored over so much time that it's going to topple over because it's top heavy. And Wayne McCroy is great with the alchemical tech revolution of bringing up concepts like that and understanding how the alchemical principles add into this. This isn't just about the news. It's a way of reading the news that not many other people will bring to the fore. You see the news, but you see it in a way of this process, this alchemical process of how they're building this technocratic city. Now, I see the Donald Trump and Elon Musk thing as people are cottoning on too much. We need to go away, pretend we're in two different camps, build up our armies elsewhere and reroute our attack. But it's the same thing. These people are all connected. There's no doubt that Peter Thiel is in with Donald Trump. Peter Thiel and Musk, by the way, were given the task together of working on Trump's Golden Dome missile project. The Golden Dome, again, is another golden era, new age, new world order, golden age, symbolic thing. It's all symbolic as well behind it. So you read these stories and you think, oh, here we go. Here's the drama. So it'll be interesting over the next few weeks to see what goes on with this EastEnders, Middle EastEnders situation. But it is, in my opinion, theatre for the masses. At least with football, you get your bread and circuses, you get some bread and you get some clowns that do backflips. These clowns don't. They do ketamine, by the way. So the show is brought to you by Ickonic Coffee. Head over to shop.ickonic.com and use the code TRENDING for 10% off. And we will see you in a little while, actually, because I will be back for this afternoon's Trending in the Afternoon. Take care. Bye.